Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of my very special podcast, which is Mavintalks. And today, if you just have a look at this wall, you'll come to know that we are with somebody very special, and that is Chetan Pangam. Chetan is the executive chef and the manager of F&B at Copthorne Hotel in New Zealand, in Wellington to be specific. Chetan, welcome to Marvin Talks with Swati Zog. It's such a pleasure to have you on my show today, and more special because you are in Belgaum for very short duration. So tell me, you are a Belgaum boy but settled in New Zealand for the longest time, I guess, over 25 years?
Yes. I
More than
have been
25 years.
almost 25 years now. Firstly, thank you so much, Swati, for having me on your
Thanks to you.
podcast. And yeah, it's a pleasure to
Yeah.
be here.
So Chetan, you are from Saint Xavier's.
Yes. So I guess my initial sort of
Schooling.
till the first to I think fifth standard, I was at Saint Xavier's.
Okay.
And then from fifth onwards, I moved to another very famous school in Belgaum, which is now called
Rashtriya
Rashtriya
Military
Military
School.
School. Back
Yeah.
then, it was called Belgaum Military
Belgaum
School.
Military School.
Yes.
But even before that, King George,
King
I
George.
think.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
I've seen that school. I've been there for the admission process as a
Yes.
counselor. But I think that was just to prepare you for a career in the armed forces, being the son of the very famous Sri Umesh Pangamji.
Yes, I guess.
Was that laying the ground in some way?
I guess for me at that time it was more than the career. It was more about discipline.
Okay.
I think because he was a very um, on the job and off the job, he was
Okay.
very strict.
Okay.
And for us, it was about I think instilling good
Yeah.
discipline,
Right.
and we are on that straight and narrow, and sort of don't waver from our paths for the
Okay.
future. I guess that was
Objective of
the
putting it.
objective, the
Yeah.
initial objective, I guess,
So
of
which standard you went to Rashtriya Military School?
sixth.
Sixth.
So I was there for 5 years.
You can get in sixth and eighth, I think. No,
Yes, I'm not too sure right now, but back then, yes.
Sixth and eighth.
Yes.
So up to 12th, you can be there.
Yes. And the funny thing was, my dad was actually posted in Belgaum.
Okay.
And I was still in a boarding school.
That happens.
And that was.
So you could come on weekends and holidays.
Yes, I did every now and then. But he was not in Belgaum for a very long time while I was in school.
So which house were you? There are many Ashoka and
so I think
Rana
everybody.
Pratap.
Yes. So back then there were only 4 houses in military school. So back then everybody starting off used to start off with Ranjit House.
Ranjit House, okay.
Which was green in color.
Okay.
And all our sort of PT uniforms and stuff were green.
Okay.
And then after that, I was moved to another very famous house called Shivaji House.
Shivaji House, okay.
Which was red.
Okay.
And then we had Pratap, blue, and we had Ashoka, which was yellow.
Okay.
So they were the 4 houses. And I believe on my last visit, there are more than 4 now houses.
Okay.
At
they are constructing a new segment also there.
Yes.
Just last week I saw.
A lot of changes. Because I think last time, almost 2 years ago, I took my son there just to have a look.
It's such a lovely campus.
Yes, it's very beautiful.
It's luxury to have that kind of space in Belgaum. And okay, so after Rashtriya Military School, and I'm so fascinated about this journey. You are the son of Umesh Pangamji. The name in the police force, and you went to Rashtriya Military School, and then suddenly we know you today as a chef. So this transition is very interesting.
Yeah, it was, and I guess to a lot of people it came as a shock.
Okay, including your parents.
Yeah, probably. I mean, back then, yes, I would say. Now it's a very completely different story.
Now it's very glamorous and very accepted career option.
Yes. Yeah. Very much so. And I mean, I remember, I think I was in our earlier conversations, I was saying initially when that thought of me going to do hotel management, it came from a very young age. I mean, cooking was my passion from a very young age, thanks to my mom. Being from Goa, and a lot of the food that we used to cook, we used to spend a lot of time whenever I could in the kitchen.
Okay.
And there was a lot of, as a young kid, I was quite chubby, and I used to love food.
Okay.
um, and that is how sort of that love for food started.
Okay.
But for us, when we were at that age, that career was not, I guess, the most famous chef in that day and age in India was Sanjeev Kapoor.
Sanjeev Kapoor, because of
And
ZTV and
yes,
Khana Khazana.
and there was no one else that
Right.
anyone
Right.
knew. It was him, and that was it.
Right.
So it was quite a daunting subject to speak about when you say I want to do it as a career.
Okay.
So it was one of my very uncles that dad used to. He was the only person that dad used to listen to
Okay.
if there was anyone in this world.
Okay.
Dr. Arun.
Okay.
So I was born in his hospital and stuff. I was
Okay.
like, he was my
Okay.
like my godfather. um, and he was the one that I had to invite over, and
Advocacy for
yes,
on your
very
behalf.
much so. Almost to that point where he was the one that sort of told my dad, let
Okay.
him go do what he
Okay.
wants to do, and then hence why I sort of got into hotel
This was
management.
after your 12th.
Yes, after
Okay.
my
And
12th.
this you went to Bangalore.
Yes, I
Mm.
studied in Bangalore,
Okay.
at KLE.
Mm-hmm.
And again, in our time, that was 1996.
Mm-hmm.
There was only less than, I think, less than 10 hotel management schools in Bangalore.
In Bangalore.
In
Okay.
Bangalore, and
Nothing in
less
Belgaum,
than 50 in India.
India. Wow.
So I think that was how,
Yeah.
the infancy of hotel
Right.
management back then
Right.
was.
How did it influence you? How did your relation with food change by actually studying it?
Um, to be honest, back then the knowledge of food was very limited to what we knew
Hmm.
based on what we cooked at home, what we
Hmm.
learnt at home, travels within sort of uh,
The traditional
Belgaum.
recipes, nothing experimenting, nothing like that. There
Yes
was.
and no,
Okay.
because Goa is where my mom's
Yeah.
from, so we used to travel to Goa quite a lot.
Okay.
So a lot of the things that were cooked, that were done, were, I still remember in my grandmother's kitchen in Goa, there were two kitchens.
Mm-hmm.
One was for non-vegetarian food,
Oh.
and the other one was vegetarian.
Okay.
So again, you could actually see two different aspects of
So the
cooking.
vegetarian was for special meals like
Yes, for special meals.
Naivedya sale किंवा असं.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the non-veg was done, and then there were some days
Okay.
that you didn't have any non-veg at
Non-veg.
home,
Yeah.
all of that sort of stuff. So that was number one, I guess, just to see a variance of what could be done.
Okay.
And the other huge significance was, which nowadays it's come to fruition quite a lot, was seasonality. I
Yeah.
still remember sitting on that big dining tables and actually eating Alfonso mangoes when they used to be like, I used to get mangoes on my sort of, because of the heat boils.
Oh my god.
I used to eat that many. So my love for
Okay.
food was there.
Okay.
And we used to eat food that was seasonal.
Seasonal. Today it has become the buzzword, and
Yes.
today we need to tell about local, seasonal. But that time, I think that was a way of life.
Carbon footprint, how many
Yeah.
miles food is traveled and stuff. Before, it was everything was what was grown,
Right.
I guess.
Locally.
Yeah, locally, you'd eat that, you'd support that, recipes that were made from that.
We didn't need to
Yeah.
tell. I still remember we could go to a farm and at Mahatma Phule Road, and we could see and buy cabbage. And that was Belgaum was blessed with vegetables
Yes.
and grain. So I had never had blueberries or strawberries earlier. Now
Yeah.
we get it everywhere.
Kiwi fruit.
Kiwi fruit, dragon fruit, whatnot. We had never seen
Yeah.
these fruit.
And I think that's one of the, every time we come back to India, one of the things that we see more and more is, probably not so much now. Maybe it is the case now, but
Yeah.
pre-COVID, we'd noticed a huge change in dining habits of
Hmm.
what people would eat. If you were to say, "Oh, let's go out and have something to eat," or why not go to KFC?
Yeah.
Or or
We
certain
want to
places
try
that,
new
yeah,
cuisine.
that are not
Yeah.
Indian
That are not.
specific.
And maybe that has got to do with traveling also.
Yes.
People are exposed more. So now tell me about this shift from Belgaum to Bangalore. To abhi ho gaya. Now from Bangalore to New Zealand.
So Bangalore, I guess one of the things, was, hotel management was still in its infancy.
Hmm.
And then my first sort of experience of a five-star hotel was in 1996 when it was Miss World. in Bangalore.
Okay.
So I was in a lucky position that I was chosen as one of the chefs that would be part of the
Oh
pageant
my God.
for the whole 2.5 weeks. There was only about 15, 20 of us across
Okay.
Bangalore, so not a
Okay.
huge amount.
Okay.
And then we were pretty much there from morning to night with the contestants,
Okay.
doing stuff for them, cooking
Okay.
food, etc. And then that's sort of what sort of almost brought that grandeur to the
Okay.
whole. It opened our eyes to what
What? Yeah.
potentially could be out there in
Right.
the world. And working in a few other training in a few other hotels like
Okay.
Leela, Oberoi's,
Mm-hmm.
Taj in Bangalore.
This
That
is
sort of
post your education. You
No, this is
worked there
during.
during your
So I was
education.
one of those. They used to call me a lot of names in school. Where in my bachelor's degree, where I used to go to work
Okay.
for free, post
College
my
hours.
college hours,
Okay. So that
just
was sort of
because.
an experience, an
Yes.
internship kind of.
No, internship was
Internship was
different. So
different.
I'd
This was
done
just
internship
okay.
in a number of places like Leela, Taj, Oberoi's, etc.
Okay.
But in Oberoi, Bangalore, I met my mentor,
Okay.
who sort of inspired me, Anupam Joglekar chef. He's in the US
Okay.
now.
Okay.
But he was the one that inspired me to pretty much what I am today.
Okay.
And that sort of, I just asked him, is it okay if I come after school? He's like, yeah,
I think
just
that
come.
time it was possible. Today, I think it would be
Uh,
much more difficult.
yes, it would be, and probably that a lot of the kids sometimes don't have that drive to
Yeah,
actually go and do that.
that's right. That's right.
And we're finding that a lot.
Yeah.
So that happened. And from that point onwards, I don't think I've ever applied for a job in my life.
Okay.
Actually, it's a fact.
Wow.
It sort of happened where he left Oberoi's. He was moving to Delhi, and
Did he take you along?
yeah.
Oh
So
my God.
so we were. I think they were opening the brand new Radisson Hotel. It was the
Okay.
first in India
Okay.
at that time, as an international brand.
Okay.
So they opened the Radisson Hotel, and then he asked me if I wanted to come and
How nice.
work there.
So you had completed your
Yeah, I'd completed my
degree
hotel
by then.
management,
Yeah. Wow.
and I was pretty much,
What
and
more could you ask for?
I packed up my bags and
So Delhi
uh,
was your first stint.
yes,
Okay.
like full time working as such,
Okay. Okay.
where I got paid, uh, I guess.
I am always curious to know what goes on behind in these five-star hotel kitchens because their presentation is so flawless and so glamorous. Is it always peaceful at the back or it's
No.
chaotic?
It's not chaotic in the sense that there's no. It's very clean, very
Clean, yes.
organized.
Yeah, right.
Organization is what you learn
Hmm.
in hotels, and that was one of the old ways.
Mm-hmm.
The way the kitchen brigades were sort of built up.
Okay.
It's a bit like the army, where you
Okay.
have
Total
everyone.
regimental kind of a
Exactly,
thing. Okay.
which doesn't happen anymore.
Okay.
Very few places in the world actually have
Okay.
that.
That's also
Uh,
got to do with discipline and planning and
exactly, yeah.
yeah.
Uniforms a huge part. Like
Did that
we
help
would.
you being from military school?
It sort of came natural,
Yeah.
where wearing a uniform with people still to this day ask me when I do interviews, when I do it looks like you've just worn the jacket. I'm like, no, that's just how I like to
Yeah.
sort of stay clean. It's just
Okay.
a habit,
Okay.
and it's just sort of carried on, and
Yeah.
that came from my early days, because wearing a big hat was a pride thing.
Yeah.
Wearing a starched apron, wearing a clean
That was
uniform, polished
that was
shoes.
what you studied
Yeah.
for, you know?
And then that's how
Yeah.
those things happen.
I think
And
again it's that pride that the military people get from the uniform. They
yes,
respect their uniform because that gives them the identity.
yes,
So
and we
that's
got to.
as a chef,
Yeah,
it's your identity,
yeah,
which is I think which speaks a lot about your profession and your passion for it.
yes.
What's your forte? What's the best thing you cook?
It's
I
a
mean, there could be
very
many.
hard
There could
question.
be many, but then
So these days, I guess there's a lot of talk of signature dishes.
yeah,
What people are known for. I
yeah,
guess
right.
you can do whatever you want, but there's things that you need something to hang your hat on.
Hmm.
So I guess I have a number of signature dishes
Okay.
that I have, I guess, made in the past. Initially, when we learned, initially we were taught, obviously, apart from Indian cooking,
Okay.
Italian was something that was quite in back then.
Yeah, right.
So I ended up working in the Italian restaurant at the Radisson.
Okay.
So we learned a lot of Italian stuff,
Hmm.
quite different, quite unique. And back then, India only had a handful of Italian
Hmm.
restaurants across the
Hmm.
country.
Hmm.
So it was quite a new cuisine
Hmm.
back then for
Right.
a lot of Indians. So I guess Italian would be
But I
what
think
I
Italian
started.
cuisine was something Indians took time to get used to. It was an acquired taste for the cheeses and
Yes.
for a little undercooked, that al dente, what they call,
Yeah.
because we are used to mushy stuff.
And I think that's sort of what they 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 took Indian, a lot of Indian people took time, but
Time.
then again they knew how to manipulate, like Indo Chinese. Um, Everything just got manipulated to
Suit their
Indianize
palate.
Italian,
Yeah, right, right.
which
So
is, I
this
guess,
Italian what we eat here is not how actual
I
Italian
really
dishes.
I can't comment on what others. I guess cooking is all about your own interpretation
Okay.
of how you want to sort of do. Like some of the Japanese stuff, for example, that you would eat in Japan would be very different to what you
Right.
get anywhere else in
Right.
the world.
Right.
And it's the same with Indian food.
Okay.
Indian food also, you'd be surprised, and I've traveled quite a bit,
Hmm.
and you'd be surprised to see some of the Indian food that you get overseas, which you probably even I've never heard of, um, which they call it Indian.
Okay.
Um, and but when you come and have it in India, it is
It's completely
completely
different.
different. And being from
Right.
India, when you know what it is, you sometimes have to sort of go and just laugh at it and just go, "Yep, fine."
Yeah.
You know,
So you were in news a couple of years ago for your feet,
yeah.
which is the burger event that
Yes,
happened in New Zealand. And then we came to know that you have a whole brand, a whole beer
yes.
in your name. We want to know more about that. And if you can show us that.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
So I guess like it's called the Visa Wellington on a plate.
Okay.
It's a huge festival that happens in Wellington.
Wellington. Okay.
Multiple events happen across the
Hmm.
2.5 3 weeks. It's now changed to almost a month long
It's in the
event.
hotel or it's in the
No, no, no.
open?
It's open to everybody. So it's in
Wow.
the Greater Wellington region. So
Okay.
it's open to everyone.
So a lot of
And
people flock there to
yes,
see
a
it.
huge amount. So there's
Okay.
like people almost save for that month
Oh my God.
to go out and spend to on events and stuff
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
So Burger Wellington's a huge part of that, and
Mm.
then we won that not last year, the year of 2023.
3. You won it.
Yes.
Wow.
And then we
So you
got
have to
to
make an innovative burger.
yes.
What did you do?
We did a Goan chicken roast pav omelette burger
Okay.
in a poi bun
Okay.
with some vindaloo fries.
Okay.
And so that was the winning burger, which we obviously, because a lot of people were like omelette in a burger, not sure how it's going to go,
Okay. But it did.
and it did well. And yeah, the like we got some amazing
Okay.
response from not just the local media but international media, and a
Okay.
lot of people, which we were very happy about and quite proud, especially being Indian origin
Yeah.
burger, because the year before another Indian burger had won as well.
Wow.
And then obviously last year again, I was in that lucky position.
So you defended the title.
Yes,
Oh my God.
and that was never done before. First time ever
Back to back.
anyone's
And what was
ever
last year's
won.
interpretation?
So last year's was a lamb galoti kebab burger in a
Okay.
croissant bun
Okay. In a croissant bun.
with some gunpowder podi fries.
I want to say ayo here because no other exclamation is required here. Ayo is enough.
Yeah, so that was last year we won, and then for winning the year before we ended up making a beer with Garage Project.
Okay.
And
Was that part of the prize or
yeah,
something?
one of the prizes
Wow.
to make a beer, and then
What's this
we
garage project?
so Garage Project is one of New Zealand's best breweries.
Okay.
You can't call it microbrewery anymore because it's a huge.
It's craft beer,
It's
perhaps.
craft beer. Lot of native New Zealand
Okay.
beers that are made there. Lot of native New Zealand ingredients. Some of the funkiest beers that you probably would would not even think in your dreams that they make.
Yeah.
And it's just they've even made something called as a Thandai beer.
Oh,
So if you start like thinking and having a look
does
at
it
their,
have that
yes,
taste of
exactly,
thandai? Okay.
like it is like,
Okay.
it is
Quite a
what
lot
it
of
says.
experiments are going on.
Yeah, there's the pickle beer,
Pickle?
pickle, so it tastes like pickled cucumber that you put in like
Yeah, yeah,
burgers and
yeah.
stuff like that, and it's just some amazing burgers.
How nice. So,
So
what was your version?
so because we won it with a Goan burger,
Hmm.
I wanted to pay homage to sort of that Goan element.
Hmm.
Did a lot of research and trying to sort of find out what we can, because there's a quite a few strict MPI rules and regulations
Okay.
of what products you can bring into
Bring
New
in,
Zealand.
yeah.
So
No seeds.
no seeds,
Yeah.
no nuts and
Right,
stuff like
right.
that. So one of my initial thoughts was to do like a cashew based
Hmm.
Fenny style
Ah.
beer, um, but that sort of didn't quite
Hmm.
go to plan. So plan B was to do something with kokum.
Kokam. Amsul.
Amso.
Ah,
Yes.
okay.
So we get that luckily in New
Okay.
Zealand. So we
Okay.
get the kokum agal, we get fresh
Oh,
kokum,
wow.
we get the salted ones,
Hmm.
and we get the dried ones as well.
Mm-hmm.
So through one of my suppliers, we ended up getting that. And then the idea was to sort of have it almost like how you have soul curry after you have a heavy meal or after you have seafood, for example.
What you're telling you actually took that as a base?
As a inspiration.
Wow.
um, it has that little pungent taste,
Yeah.
flavor, some spice
It's
notes.
totally unique.
Yeah, and we added some black peppercorns, coriander, because it has coriander in it.
Yeah.
We added some dried coconut toasted.
So it's a
And
soul curry beer basically. No,
yeah,
no,
sort of.
I'm sorry.
No, because we were trying to come up with a name, and soul curry was actually one of the
Okay.
names that I'd suggested.
Soul curry would have been better.
But we were from a marketing point of view, when
You
the
needed
marketing team sat down and sort of we were trying to figure out
a brand name.
what a brand name. Soul curry might just be like, number of people could have taken a number of meanings out of
You're
it.
right.
So we,
And it would have given them a ready perspective to what to expect.
yes,
कि okay ये तो सोल कड़ी की तरह रहेगी, which you didn't want, and
And-
which it was not in fact.
yeah, and because you can't please everybody, and some people have got a, either you love it or you don't.
Yeah, right.
It's not, there's no
Right,
two ways about
right,
it.
right.
So you had to give people something that people would be curious about.
Okay.
So we decided to call it something on the lines of the way of life.
The Goan
So
way
the
of
Goan
life.
way of life.
Okay.
So when I did some research, there's a brewery called Susegado in Goa already.
Okay.
So original name was Susegado. So we take the O out, and
Susegado
then
is a Portuguese kind
Yes.
of a version of it.
so we called it Susegad, and
Perfect.
we basically
Perfect name.
it's a way of life.
Yeah.
And
Leisurely,
yes,
at your pace, which is what today's generation wants to work-life balance, as we call it now, glamorously. Can I see that?
And the beer is actually there you go.
Oh my god. Just look at the packaging. So this is Susegad beer. What he has done, and his face is there on it. How nice.
And then it explains like
Please,
some of the
please,
things
please.
that we've got at the back, like what we've actually put in, and it's got a huge amount of it, but it does not sort of it's not offensive when you taste it.
Okay.
You can subtly taste. If you close your eyes, have a drink, then you'll actually
Okay.
try and imagine if I talk to you about what soul curry or what that kokum.
Does it
should
also
taste
have the
like.
top notes and like how you have in wine?
Yes, so
you have
it's
that.
sort of, I don't like to speak about beer in terms of wine, because
Wine.
it just
It's
sometimes comes across as a bit snobbish when you start talking about beer in that sense, because it is staying true to it's more of a
Fun drink.
summer on a deck.
Oh, okay.
In like when you open a chilled can,
Yeah.
you sort of
Susegad only, totally.
that's sort of
Susegad.
that's the whole idea. So we didn't want to complicate it too much.
Okay.
And then the recommendation is we squeeze a little lemon.
Okay. Before
And
serving.
it just opens up
Wow.
the beer a lot more, and it'll change completely the way it tastes.
Okay.
And we were surprised at
How long did it take to come to the right taste?
we made like a a test batch of I think 120 liters first.
120 liters.
um, and then after that we did a few trials and a few
Mm,
other
mm,
additions,
mm,
reductions,
mm.
and then we sort of, it took in total of about 3 to 4 months
Oh,
from the time we started the initial talks
concept stage
to
to proof. Okay.
packaging, and again because the design was also quite important because
Yeah.
it had to speak of Goa. Like, if
Right.
you look at it, it's very psychedelic. It's very,
Yeah. It's fun.
uh,
It's very
yeah,
peppy.
yeah,
Bright
bougie.
colors.
Yeah, yeah. That sort of, it's got that vibe. It's
Yeah.
got that pinkish, yellow.
and and a little pop tint
Yeah,
is there. You
yeah.
have your face in silhouette, and it's come out very nice.
Yes. No, thank you. And then we were really surprised at how, because generally beer is considered to be a male sort of,
Yeah.
men generally drink
Right.
beer. That's the general. But we were so surprised at the amount of women that started drinking this beer. And there was actually one of our very regular guests. She was the one that coined that term. This is like
Okay.
summer on the deck.
Summer on the deck. Okay.
Which is like, okay, I said,
That's a
I'm gonna
tagline for Susegad.
I'm gonna use that,
Yeah.
and yeah, and we're really pleased at how
It's
well.
available in New Zealand
Yes,
on
it's
the shelves,
available
like
on
everywhere.
online at Garage Project, and then
Okay.
we have it in our restaurant,
Okay.
and then we put it across in. We have 19 hotels across New Zealand.
Okay.
So we had in
The Copthorne.
yes, Copthorne
Okay.
Millennium Hotels,
Okay.
Millennium and Copthorne Hotels,
Okay.
and we had it in a few of other hotels
How was it
for a
received?
limited. Amazing. So
Okay.
we were really surprised at how well across the board.
You should put this for the awards here.
That is something that if they want to do, they will.
Because I guess there are awards
Yes,
for the
beer
best wines,
awards.
for the
Yes,
best beers.
huge amount. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
it's a huge market in New Zealand. So yeah, I'm quite pleased. And then obviously for winning again last year, I get to make another beer.
So you're going to make another one.
Yes, I've been
Okay.
doing a bit of research in India for that
Okay.
as well.
Okay. Okay.
I obviously can't share
I know. I know.
what I'm gonna be.
But this visit to India this time, I think it's going to give you a lot of ideas.
Yeah, a lot of inspiration.
Yeah.
We've actually got a few things in mind already.
Okay.
We came in with that pre-planned notion of these are the styles, or
Okay.
this is what we potentially want to
Okay.
make, but with obviously with a New Zealand twist to it,
Okay.
with ingredients that would be quite unique to New Zealand.
So I'm just, my mind is going wild. It could be kheer, it could be sambar, it could be anything. It could be lassi. I don't know what surprise I'm going to get next time.
Yes,
So looking forward to
yeah.
it. What was your
It's a few
inspiration?
months away, but
Okay.
yeah, we'll be, when I'm back in February, we start the process again.
Okay. Okay.
And then yeah, there's a couple of other events that we are planning for this year's festival.
Okay.
Again, which I can't share all the
Okay.
details, but they would be very.
We'll look forward, and
would be
it's going to be
amazing.
there online. Maybe we'll get to
And
see
it'll be
it.
a huge. India's got a huge part to play in it.
Okay.
So it's definitely
Then
whatever I
it's
do.
more special for
Yeah.
us to look forward.
So one
to.
of the things that yeah, that my focus has always been um, enhancing what we have as a culture and the
Okay.
food that we have in India.
So then next question comes, and which everybody like me would want to know. After 25 years in New Zealand and with such a strong background and with all these accomplishments, why not a restaurant in Belgaum or in India? Okay.
Uh, Again, you never say never.
Never say never, right?
And again, maybe the time's not come, or
I think it's come because Belgaum's palate is now ready to try.
yeah, who knows? We might,
Okay.
somebody out there listening that wants to talk, we can talk.
Please do. Please make a note of this. He's open to such possibilities.
Yes, no, definitely. I mean, always open to new ideas, and
Right.
definitely. Speaking of Belgaum, there's a lot of. I've been lucky enough to visit a few of the restaurants.
Yes.
In
Quite a
Belgaum
lot of
this time.
Young people are coming into this.
Yeah.
There are cafes, there are hangouts, there are bistros, and a lot of new
Yeah.
stuff is coming.
And it's good to see that a lot of those places are busy.
Yeah, they
which
are
is, I
busy.
guess,
Yeah.
like you said, that whole people's palate is
Yeah.
changing.
Because of travel,
Yeah.
I guess, because of social media mainly.
Yeah.
Because people see and they want to try it. If they see something, they want it in their city.
Yeah.
And if they're getting it, nothing like it.
Yes. Now, which is good. I mean, it also gives a lot of people that option, the ones that have traveled and the ones that can't travel.
Yeah. Yeah,
without traveling, you
correct.
can actually sit back at home and
Get a
enjoy.
bite of
Yeah,
the
what?
world
Yeah.
cuisine here, but we still don't have a proper fine dining place in Belgaum where you have a proper 9 course meal.
Yes,
There are some places, I think, with 5-star hotels. I have been invited to their tasting menus, but then apart from that, not regular like you have in big cities.
I think that might. I mean, I don't think it's too far away.
Yes.
But I guess it just all comes down to supply and demand,
Yes.
and also like I was just last week I visited Mumbai,
Okay.
and I met a friend of mine called Varun who runs India's best restaurant
Mm-hmm.
called Mask. Um,
Yeah, mask.
yeah, so that was the second time I've been there,
It takes only 48
and
per
it's
day, and it
tasting.
makes, I
It's
think,
a
around 20 crores per year. That's what I've read. Yeah. Just with
possibly.
48 guests per day.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you've read, then
It's,
probably.
yeah.
But yeah, they do a 10 course menu.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff on there is so amazing. Like in all my years,
Mm,
being from India as well, I've not heard of some of the
mm,
ingredients.
mm,
And I guess that is what the epitome. It is the best restaurant in India,
mm.
ranked in the world's top 100,
Wow.
Asia's number 16 in Asia.
But why do
Uh,
you think the Michelin stars are not given to Indian restaurants? Why
no idea.
not
We don't have
yet?
Michelin stars in New Zealand and Australia either.
Is it?
So there's a lot of a lot of those things that probably
Is
haven't.
Michelin star a hype, or you feel that it actually gives a fair idea about that restaurant or the chef?
um, Again, it's quite a Michelin star. I think was always a European thing when
Yeah.
it started off. It's gone to a lot of parts of the
It's
world
there in
now.
Dubai, it's there in
Uh,
Singapore.
yes, and back then when it was voted the world's cheapest Michelin star hawker noodle chan,
Okay.
I went to that in Singapore.
Okay.
And again, it's there. It's another. It's like anything else when you talk about any service. The
Yeah.
moment you have medals pinned on your uniform or your restaurant or anything,
Mm.
it's always a great feeling. But
Yeah.
I don't think that's my personal opinion. I don't think that would determine whether you're good or not.
Right.
At the
The
end of the day,
popularity and the
yeah,
customers liking your guests, loving your food and coming back for more, I think that's more than enough.
yeah. And I think India has some amazing restaurants
Yes.
that probably are in that
Yeah.
category of Michelin.
Right.
And I don't think it would be too far away of especially the doors that India is knocking on from a culinary point of view. I don't think it's
I think
very
Indian
far away.
restaurants didn't even pursue the Michelin stars. They were like,
I think it's going to be the other way around
they
where
have to pursue
yeah,
Indians.
potentially that could be
Yeah.
something that they do. But yeah,
Because
but
we always see Vikas Khanna's Junoon, or, these restaurants.
he's got the new one, Bungalow in New
Bungalow.
York.
Yeah.
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 But again, like he is a pioneer and sort of what very highly respected,
Hmm.
highly skilled chef.
Hmm.
What he's done to Indian food overseas.
Hmm.
There's Vineet Bhatia, who's
Yeah.
another one of the
Right.
Indian
Right.
chefs that has won Michelin stars. There's
Yeah.
Garima Arora. She's just come back to India and opened
Hmm.
a new
Hmm.
restaurant here.
So
So I
they have
think
become brands in themselves,
yes,
the chefs and the places. So you think you also could be in that league now with such a great body of work behind you?
I don't think I'd consider myself
Why not?
in that sort of league because uh, I just like to cook good food, make people
How nice.
happy, enjoy, spend time with the family,
Yeah.
friends. I mean, these things. I guess there's a time for everything.
You feel
If
Belgaum
it's
has changed over these years? You've been coming every alternate year or so.
a huge change,
Huge.
like it is not. Uh,
I'm not saying the buildings and the roads, but the people at the core, their buying habits, their eating habits, the way they live,
yes,
their openness to new experiments. You feel there is a change in that.
I think so. I think just by looking at some of the supermarkets and some of the
Mm-hmm.
places that I've visited, um, the amount of Western influence that has come into Belgaum,
Mm-hmm.
like from a food point of view to everything else,
Yeah.
is amazing to see.
Right.
But to be very honest, if I have to be blatantly honest, I think sometimes along the way when you're starting to do too much of what some people may like, or what you think some people may like, you tend to forget and highlight what you yourself are good at. So one of
Wow,
the things that
that's profound.
um, one of the things I was trying to find a good place that would do, very good food that is authentic to
Hmm.
Belgaum, or highlighting that regional,
Hmm.
local, hyper
Hmm.
local produce that is, focused on that.
Hmm.
Because like you said earlier, we're still so blessed with
Yeah.
all the produce
I
that we have
love
around.
I love the vegetables, the freshness, and I can still go and see that it is actually grown in a farm and not on the side of a railway track.
Yeah,
I feel so happy and blessed to have that kind of food.
yeah. And I don't know, I might have missed it, but are there many local places that are like that compared to,
The farms you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
like that whole farm to table, like,
Yes.
restaurants that are doing
Yes.
that food in
Yes.
Belgaum?
Yes.
Oh, that's.
You see carrots, you won't
Mm,
find them anywhere except Belgaum. You see the small vatanas. I
yeah,
wrote about it. I write in Deccan Herald.
yeah,
So every year I make sure that I write about this stuff.
yeah,
You won't get our kakdi, you won't get our carrots, you won't get our brinjal, you don't get
yeah.
our small vatana anywhere else in the world.
So my question is, which restaurants are actually highlighting that aspect?
I don't know of any who use the small vatana because it's so tiring to open the
Yeah,
pod and you get a yield of itna sa
yeah,
after you peel like a kg of it. But yes, the carrots. But again, for the carrots, the restaurants prefer the
yeah.
hybrid ones because they are so easy to grate.
And I think that's what's changed,
Yeah.
which I think needs to almost come back. Because overseas, a lot of it, to be honest, especially post COVID, um, we have now started to look back at um, lot more local, appreciate
Hmm.
local a lot more, and go almost old school, but with
Hmm.
a modern touch.
Hmm.
I think along the way, over the years, a lot of people have forgotten how to
Yeah.
do certain things,
Right.
keep things simple.
Yeah.
Where these
And
days,
flavorful.
yeah, with social media, I guess one of the things is it's not about how good the food tastes at first;
Right.
it's about how good it looks.
Looks.
And it's sort of, for me, it's a bit the other way around, where I want the food to taste good, because
Yeah.
no matter, if the food looks good, that's great, but sometimes it may be very short lived.
Yeah.
Versus if the food tastes good and you know that that's what
Yeah.
you're going to get every time, I think
I
you have
I
a.
just gathered this recipe of khatkata from my
Yes.
mother-in-law. She makes amazing khatkata and a big pot full.
Yeah.
Basic ingredients: 10 to 12 vegetables, very few spices, and coconut gravy. But the change it brings, only one or two different things that she puts is the kangi
Yeah.
and tirphar.
Yes.
That completely dramatizes the whole dish. It is so flavorful, so easy to make. The chopping takes time, but the cooking takes barely like an hour or so,
Yeah.
and we relish. She gives it to like 10-15 households, and we look forward. Bhogila ata
Yes.
Sankranti Chadi, she had done it, and I wrote it down because I want to keep it. She's getting older. I want to keep that recipe. I wrote about it, and many
Yeah.
people told me, "What is this khatkhato?" I said, "This is a typical Konkan dish using all the seasonal vegetables
Yeah.
and so flavorful without any drama of masalas." Otherwise, we see on social media they put all the masalas are dumped together, and there's cashew and there's paneer and there's so much of stuff.
And I think the actual ingredients lose
They
the
lose their
flavor.
character. But here, each
Yeah.
vegetable stood out in itself. I love the way she
My
does it.
grandmother, she's actually here. So she's
Okay,
95.
okay.
So she also makes an amazing khatkata.
Khatkata she makes.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And a lot of the stuff at 95, she still does, and that
My God.
using that tirfal and stuff
Tirfar,
like that. So
yeah.
she still makes that.
She
Yeah.
gets it from her mother's place in Banda.
Yeah.
All a lot of that kangi and the kandamul, whatever
Yeah.
you need, she brings it from there, and then so that's the authentic, local, fresh, flavorful, and it doesn't get spoiled for 2-3 days.
Yeah. Because it's natural.
It's
It does not
natural.
have
Yeah,
any additives, any ingredients that
nothing,
it
nothing.
shouldn't, and it's seasonal.
You just boil it and keep, and the flavors seep in again the next day.
And the nutrition is so high
Nutrition, yeah.
which
Good
makes
for
it,
the
yeah,
season, the
yeah.
winter season. Yeah. So what's next? Your kids are growing up, and you have a generation before you. You have a generation ahead of you. So what's your plan in the next maybe 10, 15 years? Where do you see?
Um, I don't know. I mean, New Zealand's been amazing to me. Um, I've been lucky enough to work for a company for such a long time.
Any plan of coming
Um,
back to India?
to visit for sure. I don't think coming
Right.
back to India is planned as such. But again, like I said before, you never say
Yeah,
never.
never say never.
But yeah, in terms of New Zealand, um, again, we've been very blessed to
Yeah,
have, like, great friends.
yeah.
We've got a great
Great
house.
weather.
Yeah, I mean, we love the weather, but some people find it too cold. My
Okay.
parents, every time they come, especially my dad, he
Okay.
always finds it to be too cold,
Okay.
too windy sometimes.
Okay.
But India again holds a very special place.
Right. Obviously,
Will
yeah.
will always, no matter what.
You'll
Um,
cherish the years you spent here.
yeah, we're not gonna sort of let that go, and we try and instill those values in our kids. Like,
Very nice.
my daughter's 8, son's 14.
Okay.
My son speaks a little bit of Marathi,
How nice.
with an accent.
It's okay.
But he does make an effort. My daughter
Yeah.
understands Marathi.
How nice.
And we try and speak
And you're
Marathi at
bringing
home.
them here every few years, so
Yes,
they
yeah,
are in touch with their
yeah.
roots.
We go
They
to
don't feel,
temples.
yeah.
Even there, we go to temples,
How nice.
celebrate festivals.
Amazing.
Like the newspaper there, they did an
Mm.
article on us for
Mm.
Diwali as a
Wow.
family and how we
Wow.
celebrate traditions and stuff.
Yeah.
Because Indian culture and India as such is becoming a huge
Yeah.
force to reckon with
Yeah.
overseas.
And a topic of interest also for the world
Yes, because there's so much to do. Like,
to learn from us.
you just like, people just keep scraping. It's like a cabbage.
Yeah. And we find
You
something new
keep
every
on,
time.
yeah, keep on peeling the layers, and you find something
Something
new.
new.
And it just is that, and we've
Right.
not even, I think, uncovered the first few layers, and
I'm
there's a
sure.
lot more to
I'm
go.
sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure. Chetan, it is. I think we are going to have another episode with Chetan because there's a lot to know from you, from your roots in Belgaum, Bangalore, Delhi, then to New Zealand, and winning all these awards and coming up with so many new things. Thank you so much
No.
for being on Marvin Talks. I think I've just scraped the upper layer. I'm sure about that too. There's plenty of things to ask you and to know more, but I think we'll keep that for another episode of Marvin Talks. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. And yeah, all the very best to you
Thank you.
and your channel.
Thank you so
And
much.
yeah,
Thank you.
thanks a lot. Thank you.